Welcome everyone. Today's topic is virtual live property tour in Belmont Central. So this is going to be pretty much a refresher of what you need to do to analyze deals in seconds, right? Because this is a property from a wholesaler. They're asking for 195,000. Okay, so I'm just going to refresh your memory as to what is it that you need to look for before you even start looking at the property. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is understand the neighborhood, making sure that the neighborhood is going to support your exit strategy. Okay, so what is it that you're going to do first? Are you going to try to do a wholesale? Are you going to try to do a buy and hold or flip? Whatever your exit strategy is, you need to make sure that the neighborhood supports that. So the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to find out what this neighborhood supports. So we're going to go to area reports, and what I did is I typed in Belmont, okay, and then I did a search. So right here, Belmont. So this property is going to support both a flip and a cash flow strategy, okay? So which is a good thing. So the next thing that we want to do is location, location, location. So what I will do next is do a power search. Okay, so I'm gonna click on power search on the property address. So right here, this is the property address, and then we're just gonna select this 6151 West Henderson. So do a power search. What this is going to do is it's just going to pull up all the listings that we find for this particular property. So the second thing that you need to do is location, location, location. So we need to find out if the location is good, right? So let me just scroll down right here. I'm going to zoom in. So what you want is to make sure that the property is nowhere near rivers, cemetery, train tracks, airports, busy streets. So you want to make sure that it's in a quiet neighborhood. Okay, so location looks good. So the next thing that I like to do is I like to look at the street. So street view. Okay, so this took us to the alley part of it. Okay, so to the back street. So this is not very helpful because what we need to do is just go back to the street and see the street. So now we need to move to the right, and then I think we need to go left right here. Okay. So this is a school. Actually, it's on the other side of the street, but this gives you a good idea of what the neighborhood looks like, right? So the neighborhood, I'm gonna go to the next street over, okay? So this is the alley. So right here, I think I went a little bit too fast. Okay, here. I wanna go into, yeah, this is the street, Henderson, okay? So the neighborhood looks pretty nice, Belmont Central. It's a great neighborhood. So it's a B minus, I would say B plus, B minus, and this supports a flip and cash flow. Oops, okay, so here we need to go back to, so this is the street, Henderson, okay? And this is actually the house right here. So let me just move a little bit. This is it. Okay, the house that we're looking at. So if I zoom in, this is the house. So it looks pretty nice on the outside. So the next thing that we need to do, this is a 3-bedroom, 1 bath. So location is good. Neighborhood supports flips and cash flow. So now the next step is to know how much the property could be sold for. In this case, ChicagoDealVault is showing that we can sell this property for 200 up to 250,000 or so. It's a 3-bedroom, 1 bath. So the next question is, the wholesaler is asking for 200,000. So they're asking, I think, for quite a lot based on the max allowed offer. So the most we should pay for this property, even if we're gonna do a buy and hold, we should aim to pay the flip price. So 150. So we should be paying between 150 to 170, even if we try to do a rental. Okay. So they're asking for way too much. So unfortunately, this is a no deal, okay? Because if we were to pay 200,000, we're going to be so tight, just regardless of the condition of the property from the inside. We need to make sure that we don't overpay for the property. That's rule number one, and that's what most investors make a mistake, right? They tend to get super excited. You know, it's a great neighborhood. The property looks good, solid from the outside. The area supports my exit strategy, but you've got to be able to pay the right price. So right here, there's no way we're going to be able to pay close to 200,000. Just the numbers are not going to work. You may think, okay, I have 50,000 spread. Guess what? That is not enough. In previous webinars, I told you that you need 100,000 spread. So if the property's ARV is 250, guess what? You need 100,000 spread, meaning that you need to pay 100,000 less than what the ARV is. So if the ARV is about 250, you shouldn't pay more than 150, especially right now in this crisis, contraction in an economy that is currently contracting and prices are going down. You have to be very conservative. Okay, so you really need to stick to this 100,000 spread. So if the property is 250, as DealVault says, there's no way you're going to be able to pay more than 150. Okay, because otherwise your numbers are going to be extremely tight. So the rehab estimate right here, it shows that it's going to be between 20 and 30. That's with the assumption it's going to be a light to medium rehab. So what we mean by that, we're just going to refinish the flooring, update the kitchen, the bathroom, painting, and light fixtures. What we are not doing is we're not putting a new roof, new windows, new foundation. We're not doing a new electrical, plumbing, or HVAC system, okay? If we see, when we look at the property from the inside, that let's say we need to upgrade the HVAC, that's just going to be at least 10,000, okay? At least 10 to 15,000. If we're going to put a new central air, that's going to be at least 10,000. So that's something that we just need to be very cautious. But right off the bat, it's a no deal because they're asking, the wholesaler is asking for way too much. So now let's take a look at the property. So what we're going to do is, this is the property. So it's super, super messy. So that's something to keep in mind. When you have so much junk in the property, this is going to be at least, just for cleanup, this is going to require 4 to 5 dumpsters. Okay, when you have so much furniture, so much junk, and it's not only the dumpsters, okay, but you also need the labor to take all this junk out. So this is going to be at least 3 to 4,000 just for cleanup. Keep that in mind, okay? Just by looking at the property. And remember, you have to focus on properties that ideally don't have a basement, okay? Because basements tend to flood. And if they flood, guess what happens? Your furnace, your water heater, and your washer and dryer are in the basement, okay? So you want to stick to properties that have 3 bedrooms, 1 bath, or 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, no basement. That would be ideal. Because remember, bigger doesn't mean more money. In fact, bigger means more risk and therefore potentially a lot less money. Okay, so please keep that in mind. Lately, we've been focusing on properties with no basement, and believe me, it's awesome. Okay, just crawl space. It's just amazing. If there's a lot of rain, we don't have to worry about it. Okay, so that is something to keep in mind. Just by looking at the property, the next thing that we're going to look at, you always have to focus on the high ticket items. What are those? Do you need a new roof? Do you need new windows? Do you need a new HVAC system? So what we're going to focus is, since we're going to take a look at the inside, we're going to be looking at the windows and then the HVAC. So meaning, does it have central air, or do we need to upgrade the heating and cooling system? Because that's going to be a big ticket item. So We already know this is a no deal because the wholesaler is asking almost for 200,000. The most we should pay is 150,000. But just for sakes, to me, I wouldn't need to look at the property to know this is a no deal. Okay, but since we already have the property, we're gonna dive in just to quickly take a look of the inside and what it would take for us to bring this up to its previous glory. Okay, meaning bringing this up to a 250,000 ARV. So the first thing is, I'm just curious about the attic. If let's just quickly take a look at the attic. So pretty much nothing is built up in the attic. It's just used for storage. So there's way too much junk. I mean, just to be able to get rid of all of these, oh my goodness, 3,000 to 4,000 easily. So it's not built up. So let's go to the lower level. Remember, we're gonna stick to the high ticket items. So I'm just gonna show you, it's got 3 bedrooms, 1 bath. What we wanna focus on, check this out. We're gonna take a look at this room. And the first thing that I'm looking at is the radiators. Okay, so this tells me that it doesn't have central air. Okay, so nowadays, when you want to sell a property for top dollars, guess what? People nowadays don't like radiators. Okay, and let me tell you, it's one of the most efficient heating system, but people don't like radiators because guess what? For cooling, they have to use window units or wall units, okay? So it's not ideal because you cannot fully control the temperature. So getting rid of radiators and updating these to central air, it's a big deal. Why? Because you need to do all new duct work. So you've got to run all the duct work in the basement on the first floor. And not only that, but obviously you need a new condenser and a new furnace. So just the new condenser and the furnace, that's just going to be close to 4,000 plus the duct work is going to be like 3,000, 7,000 plus labor. This upgrade of the HVAC system is going to be at least $12,000 for this size property with the basement. Okay, 12,000. So if we go back to DealVault's estimation for the rehab, it says 30,000. There's no way it's going to be 30,000. It's going to be a lot more. Why? Because we need to upgrade the HVAC system. Even if you're going to do a rental, okay, nowadays tenants, if they're going to be paying, I'm going to show you what their rent is going to be for this place. If they're going to be paying more than $2,000 in rent, guess what? Do you think they're going to be okay with window units or wall units for cooling? There's no way. They do expect central air. If you don't have central air, guess what? You are not going to be able to command over 2,000 in rent. This is going to drop. If you were to leave the radiators and window units, it's going to drop the rent by $200 to $300. It's a huge drop. So obviously that's going to affect the numbers. Let's go back to the property and just take a quick look. So the paneling, all this wood, it's just very dated. Let's take a look at the kitchen and the bathrooms. Okay, so this is the kitchen. Obviously, even look at the microwave. Everything is very, very dated. Okay, this tile work, this is 8 by 8 inches. They don't make these. I mean, they make them, but they're no longer used. And in fact, let me tell you, when you see in properties this type of old tile, you have or you run the risk of having asbestos in these properties, okay? Because this is just so old, okay? It could be from the 60s, from the 50s, okay? Let's look at the flooring. Flooring, I think the flooring looks okay. But yeah, the kitchen, it's all very dated. So the entire kitchen needs to go, right? So this needs to be the sink. Look at the sink. So this is, it's never been updated, even the faucet, nothing, okay? The countertop, the cabinets, you know, these are very, very old, Okay, so that's something that I was curious about to see the kitchen. Let's quickly go on to the pick another room outside of the kitchen. I want to show you. Let's dive into the basement. See what it looks like. Okay, so obviously it's a big mess. Look at the fridge. Whoa, it's super old. Um, so here you have the mechanicals right here. Let me do a close-up to the mechanicals. So the water heater, it looks fine. The furnace, imagine you would need to replace this furnace to have central air. So it's just major work, okay? And then you don't have the duct work. So obviously these all needs cleanup. And then get rid of all this junk. Even, you know, they left behind pretty much everything, tools, everything. Okay, so let's go up into the first floor again. This is the living area, so it's just junk. If we were to guess, what do you think the condition of the windows would be? Not ideal, right? So that'll be my second concern, right? So we would need to check the windows. So here, obviously, you have the radiators, and you see right here on the window, you have the AC window. So in today's market, it's not gonna cut it. If you want to command over 2,000 in rent, window units and radiators is not going to cut it. So that's gonna greatly reduce the rent. Okay, so here, let me see what else we have. This is the door to the basement. This is the kitchen we've seen, living area. And this is gonna be the bathroom. Okay, so look at the bathroom. It is so dated. Look at the tile, 8x8. Okay, windows, I'm sure they need a lot of work. And then the bathroom, I mean, the bathroom needs to be gutted. Okay, so just in the bathroom, look at the bathtub. I mean, this is just a big disaster. So the rehab on this property, it's going to be over 40,000. My guess is that when you need to do the HVAC system, you need to redo the kitchen, the bathroom, floorings, paint, light fixtures. Probably you might need to replace some of the windows. This is going to go over 40,000 easily. So my guess is that this could easily go as high as 50,000. Okay, so the question is, if the ARV is 250,000 for this property, how much should you offer for this property if you are going to spend 50,000 in rehab? So let me give you the formula. Please make sure that you write this down. I know we've gone over these before, but I just want to show you what's behind this max allowed offer. So it's the ARV. So let's make the ARV 250,000. We are going to multiply this by 70%, okay? I'm going to compute the flip price. Now, why 70%? Because 20% should be your net profit on the flip, and another 10% should be your carrying cost, okay? Your interest, your taxes, utilities, everything that you need to pay while you do the rehab, okay? And then we are going to subtract the rehab minus 50,000. So the most you should pay for this property would be 125,000. So the wholesaler is asking for almost 200,000. I mean, there's no way, okay? So, I mean, we should be able to analyze deals in minutes. So I'm just gonna recap the steps that you need to follow. First of all, make sure that the neighborhood supports your exit strategy. If the neighborhood supports flips and cash flow, that's awesome, because if you want to wholesale the property, you can wholesale these to a flipper or to an investor that is going to buy and hold. So that is awesome. Second thing that you need to pay attention to is location. This property, it's in a B neighborhood and it is in a quiet street, which is great. It's far away from busy streets. There's no rivers, no cemeteries, no train tracks, no airports. So location is great, okay? So, but before even we took a look at the inside of the property, we need to know the ARV, which is around 250, and the most we should pay for the property. So based on our computation, I mean, you shouldn't pay more than 150, but after seeing the property from the inside, the fact that it needs a new HVAC, it needs a new bathroom, new kitchen, the rehab is going to be at least 50,000. So the most you should pay for this property is 125. So obviously this is a no deal and you need to skip it, okay? And then remember, keep in mind that you want to focus on properties that have no basement, 3 bedrooms, 1 bath, brick, less than 1,500 square feet, and that the rehab is going to be less than 35, 40,000. Please try to avoid rehabs that are over 40,000. This is a clear example of a rehab that is going to be over 40,000. Why is that? Because you are touching, you're redoing a new system, HVAC. Every time that you touch or redo a new system, like new electric, new plumbing, new HVAC, you're looking at least a $10,000 ticket item. Okay, a new roof, 10,000, $5,000 to $10,000. HVAC, this is going to be at least 10,000, 10 to 12,000. And then remember, windows, it's still a pending item that we would need to double check. So right off the bat, this is a no deal. Even though it's in a great neighborhood, the property from the outside looks amazing, but from the inside, it just needs a lot of work. And remember, keep in mind that when you have to do an extensive cleanup, it's going to be in the thousands. A light cleanup where you need maybe a couple of dumpsters, it's going to be 1,500. But this type of cleanup is going to easily reach 4,000 because you're going to need at least 4 to 5 trucks and then 2, 3 guys at least to clean this up. I mean, this is a big job for cleanup. Okay, so by far this is a no deal. Are there any questions on the line? So I just want to make sure that you get the hang of it. You understand the steps to analyze a deal in minutes. You shouldn't spend 30, 40, 50 minutes analyzing something. You should be able to quickly determine if you should jump on the deal or not. So that is why my objective is to do weekly property virtual tours. So the next one that we're going to do, we're going to run it on a Sunday, and it's going to be actual tour, live event. It's going to be probably in 2 weeks or so. So we're finishing up our Mount Prospect rehab. I want to take you to that property. I want you to see some before pictures and then the actual after rehab look and feel. We're going to go over the numbers. We're going to go over ARV, rents, rehab, the whole 9 yards, for all of you to have a really good understanding of not only the neighborhood, what the neighborhood supports, and the property itself, okay? So let me answer some of the questions. Would you use a contractor to do the entire project, or do you use GC? Okay, great question, okay? So the question is, would you use one individual to do the entire work, or would you use a general contractor? This is going to be driven by the requirements of the village. Okay, sometimes you can get the permits as a homeowner. And if you get the permit as a homeowner, you act as the GC and you can hire one contractor. But sometimes if you bought the property under a company name, under your entity, your LLC, your S Corp, then they won't allow you to do a homeowner's permit. They're going to have you use a GC to pull the permits, okay? Because remember, you always have to pull permits for any type of rehab, and every village has its requirements, because the last thing that you want to do is upset the inspectors, the village. You have to have the village on your side. So if you start to do this type of rehab work without permits, guess what? the village can find out, and they're going to put a stop order, and then they're going to make your life miserable. Okay, they're going to have you redo things, they're going to have you tear things up for them to do an inspection, so it's just going to be a nightmare. So it's best to start with the right foot. And let me give you a tip of advice. How will the village find out if you started doing work on the property after you bought the property? Check this out. When you turn on the utilities, especially the water, guess what? Even though public works at the village, it might be in a different building, guess what? The water department and the building inspection department somehow in most villages are interconnected. So when you turn on the water, guess what? The building inspection department gets notified. So you are going to have an inspector checking the property like the next day you turn on the water. Just a tip of advice, okay? So please always find out the requirements for you to pull the permits, and ideally you can do a homeowners because it's going to be cheaper than if you hire a GC. But in this type of property, you're going to need more than one contractor, okay? You're going to need an HVAC company to do the HVAC upgrade. You're going to need somebody to do the kitchen, the bathroom. So you're going to need probably plumber, electrician. So you're going to need more than one contractor. We obviously try to avoid GCs because they're going to charge you an arm and a leg. So they're going to, for these type of projects, they're going to charge you at least $10,000 to $15,000 just to manage the project. So what we like to do is we like to manage the project and then just hire the electrician, the plumber, HVAC, and they can work among themselves, okay? So that's just my answer. You're going to need more than one contractor. Depending on the village, you might need to play the role of GC. Okay, another question is, why do you use the highest ARV instead of the lowest? Wouldn't it be safer? Oh yeah, of course, great point. I was just being, very sort of conservative in this case, that the most we should pay is 150, but after seeing the property from the inside, we knew it was not a good deal, even if we were to take the highest ARV. But when the numbers tend to make sense, you are not going to take the highest ARV, right? So you're going to go in between. If this is between 233 to 257, you're going to take maybe 240, 245 as your ARV. You've got to be very conservative, especially in this market, because the market is contracting. Property prices have dropped at least 7 to 10% in the last 3 months. Why? Because property sales have plummeted, okay? So that is making the property prices come down. So yeah, absolutely, great point. You don't always take the highest ARV, but in this case, the most I knew we should pay was 150,000. The wholesaler is asking almost for 200,000, so there's no way it was going to make sense. So great point. You never take the highest number from the ARV, okay? You take the middle number. Another question is, are you the GC? So for many or most of our projects, we hire our contractor, and he happens to have a GC license, okay? What that means is that he's got to have and take a test to become a GC, and he has to have insurance. He has to be insured and bonded. That is very critical because that's what the villages require when you pull permits. So the contractor that we use is a GC, okay? But we don't pay additional money for him to manage the project. That's just one of the perks after having used him for so many projects. Another question is the dumpster. Okay, so for the dumpster, what we like to do is we hire a company and they don't bring the dumpster, they just bring trucks, right? And then just get rid of everything like in 2 days. This type of work could be done in 2 days for the cleanup. When they see the dumpster, it's a red flag. Absolutely, Mark. If you put dumpsters without pulling permits, I mean, that's a huge red flag. So we do pull permits, and we don't like dumpsters. What we like to do is either we put all the junk in the garage, and once the project is done, we bring a dumpster and then just fill it up, or if it requires a lot of cleanup, like in this case, we just bring a company that they bring the people and the trucks and then just leave it clean. Another question, if I buy a property through my LLC and I'm a GC, how would that work? Okay, so if you that's a great scenario. You always have to buy properties under your LLC for asset protection, tax benefits, and for funding purposes. If you are your own GC, that's awesome. But remember, if you're a GC, you have to have a GC license, you have to be registered with the village, and you have to carry carry insurance. So you have to be insured and bonded. And the problem, one of the things why I don't like to have a GC license, it's because the insurance itself is very expensive. The yearly policy, it's at least $2,000 if you want to be your own GC. Okay, so through the connections we have, we know GCs that we can use their license pretty much to pull permits, and they don't need to do any of the work. Just to pull permits, we use their license. So I would call Tony. I say, Tony, please pull up permits for this property. And then we send our contractors to do the work. So we don't need to pay that GC fee, okay? But, I mean, if you already have a GC license and you're insured, I mean, that's awesome because you're gonna be saving a lot of money. Another question is, I was under the impression that the basement is a positive for potential additional space. Please explain why most situations where water issues will still not be a problem, that a basement is a negative. Okay, Valerie, thank you for your comment. That's a misconception. People think the bigger, the better. Well, guess what? When you are the landlord, the bigger, the more problems. Okay, so ideally, you don't want to have basements. Some tenants, obviously, they love the space, but guess what? To maximize the return on investment, you want to stick to properties without a basement. Why? Because in the past 2 months, let me tell you, we had floodings in about 2-3 properties. I mean, the basement had like 6 feet of water. Guess what? Just to do the cleanup for that, it was quite expensive. And then you have to fix the root cause. You have to redo the furnace, the water heater, the washer and the dryer. The whole ordeal was about $10,000, okay? We have other properties with crawl space, no basement, zero expense, zero flooding. And let me tell you, we've experienced that some of the villages like Bellwood, their sewage totally sucks. So guess what? Even if your plumbing is great, the street sewage backs up and it comes into your basement. So it's a big deal, right? And guess what? They're not going to pay for the damage. It's on you. That is why we love properties without basements. And guess what? You're going to be able to command very similar rents. Many people think that because the property has a basement, they're going to be able to collect $100, $200, $300 more a month. That's absolutely not the case. We have many properties without a basement. We're collecting top dollars, like the one in Cicero that we took most of you guys. It's got a crawl space. We're collecting $1,770 for that property. Another one in the Streamwood, we're collecting $1,790, no basement. Okay, so it's a big misconception, especially when flooding occurs. Okay, you need to worry about making sure the foundation doesn't have any cracks, that the water is not coming into the basement. So you have to worry about a lot more stuff. So no basement is ideal. 3 bedrooms, 1 bath. If it's going to be your own home, I mean, yeah, you can have a basement. It's obviously nicer, but if it's for rental, you want to maximize the return on your investment. So ideally, no basement, okay? In fact, we're going to close on a property in Elmwood Park, probably in week and a half, and that does have a basement, okay? But in the past heavy rains, we went back to the property. Luckily, it didn't flood, okay? So that's a good thing, but we would prefer properties without a basement, okay? So great question, Valerie. Another one is, do you ever add extra on what the cost will be for unknown? Absolutely. Great question, Jeff. You always want to put a cushion of 5 to 10,000 for unexpected. Okay, it's mandatory. Okay, because most oftentimes you will go over budget due to unexpected items. So you have to have 5 to 10,000 cushion. Great question. Another question is, do you use 1-800-JUNK? We've never used them, Mark. We use another company. So send us an email and we can send you the company that we use. They're pretty reasonable. They charge maybe $350. The average is $450 per truck. These guys charge less than $400. So we save $50 to $100 per truckload. So we can give you that contact information. Another question is, why would you not purchase this property in your LLC just to avoid using a GC on the project? No. Great question, Valerie. You always want to buy properties under your LLC for 3 benefits. Asset protection. If somebody sues you, they're not going to tap into your personal assets, okay? So the liability remains in the property itself, okay? Benefit number 2, tax benefits. Depreciation and interest rate. The interest you pay on the mortgage is deducted. So that tax benefits are huge. And then for funding, it's going to be easier for lenders to give you money under your entity than under your personal name. And then some villages, if you buy the property under your entity name, they're going to require you to have a GC pull the permits, like Streamwood. That was the case. We bought it under our LLC. When it came time to pull the permits, I went to the village and I said, I want to pull the permits. And they said, well, if this is under an LLC, we need a GC. If you're going to be your own GC, we need you to have a GC license. You need to be registered with the village, and you need to be insured and bonded. Well, the insurance for that is going to be $2,000 a year. And I don't have a GC license. So I had to call our GC. I said, hey, Tony, please go pull the permits. He pulled the permits for us. He didn't even do any of the work because he knows that our contractors do high quality work. So he even if he doesn't oversee the project, even though his license is on the line, he knows that the quality work we do won't jeopardize his license. Okay, so always buy properties under your LLC. Even if they require you to pull the permits using a GC, you might need to pay somebody to pull the permits on your behalf, or just hire a GC. You're gonna pay a little bit more, but you have no choice, okay? So great questions. Another question is the basement issue then dependent on the village? Absolutely, like Bellwood, it's a perfect example. The diameter of their sewage on the street, it's just not big enough. So oftentimes in big floodings, they get blocked. And guess what? It backs up to the properties. It goes into the property's basements. Will they be liable? No, but guess what's happening right now? I heard that many insurance companies now are suing the villages for not keeping up the maintenance on their public sewage. Okay, but it's the insurance companies going after the villages. But guess what? In the meantime, you have to pay for the repairs, and it could be very expensive because again, the problem is that your furnace, your washer, dryer, and water heater are in the basement. So if it floods, it's a big deal. Okay, and if you have drywall, you've got to replace the drywall, otherwise mold is an issue. I mean, it's a very expensive repair. So that is why we try to stay away from basements as landlords. You guys are asking amazing questions. Another question is, what about the due on sale clause for FHA house hackers? Can they create an LLC? Okay, so that's a great point. For FHA loans, usually they're given under your name, and then some people, they want, when they refinance, they put the loan on their an LLC. But then when you refinance, you're paying off the FH loan. So you always need to get permission from your lender to do a quitclaim deed under your LLC. And guess what? When you do a quitclaim deed from your personal name to put it under your LLC, most oftentimes the lender is not going to know. So the due on sale is not going to happen. Okay, they're not going to know most oftentimes. The only thing that triggers them to find out that you change the name on the loan is when they get a return mail. If they send you a letter and it goes back to the lender, right? That's just a red flag. But most oftentimes, even if you do a quitclaim deed from your personal name to your entity, lenders are not going to find out. But since we don't use FHA loans, not even rehab loans, 203K loans, we use Harmony lenders. To begin with, we buy the properties under an entity. So we don't need to do quitclaim deeds to LLCs or entities. Just when we purchase them, they're under a company name. Another question is, you use the GC just to pull permits then? Absolutely. How much for GC fee to pull permits? Okay, great question, Valerie, because we have such a great relationship with the GC. We give him so much business, especially his specialties roofs. We give him so many roof projects. He doesn't charge us anything to pull permits. But guess what? Hardly any GC is going to pull permits for you and not do the work. Why? Because their license is on the line. If you hire horrible contractors, guess what? The village is going to come after the GC. So it's going to be a super bad contractor if they let you use their license just to pull permits and not do the work and not oversee the work. So if a GC pulls the permits, they will also want to oversee the project and do most of the project. Otherwise, they're not going to just pull the permits for you and then you pay them a fee, because you can pay them what, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 to pull permits. But guess what? If something goes wrong in the rehab, they can sue them for thousands and thousands. If the house burns because the electrician did a poor job, the GC is liable for it. So that is why no GC is going to allow you to use their license just to pull permits. No way. But since the GC that we know knows that we hire great contractors, they pull the permits for us. We don't need to pay him anything. He just goes to the village, gets the permits, and we bring our own people. So that's just because of the relationship, right, that we have. But most likely, if they don't know you, they won't be able to do that for you. Even we know a couple of GCs from mastering, they won't lend their license just to pull permits. Unless they take on the project, they won't do that. Okay, so keep that in mind. Another question, what does your GC charge to use his license? We don't pay anything because we give him enough roof volume or work. He can just pull permits for us at no charge, okay? And he's not gonna do any of the work. We bring our own electrician, own plumber, contractor. He doesn't even put a foot in the property, okay? They just pull the permits and that's it. That's very, very uncommon, because guess what? If something goes really wrong, he is the ultimate responsible for it. So the village is going to come after him. They are going to obviously sue him, and his insurance premium is going to go up. It's going to be a big mess, right? But it's just everything built on trust. We've done a lot of projects. All he does is pull permits for us if the village requires a GC. But we also have our contractor who happens to be a GC. So we don't always use the GC that we know. Our contractor has a GC license, so he can also pull permits for us, and he also gets to do the work, okay? How can we find a good GC? Great question, right? So the village has a lot of GCs. Every single village has a lot of GCs registered, so the village can give you the name of all the GCs already registered with the village. So that's one way, word of mouth. If you're a part of DealVault, we can put you in touch with some GCs, okay? So great questions, everyone. So proud of you. Amazing questions. So I want to make sure that everyone has access to DealVault. We're going to give it to you for free. So to get DealVault for free today, all you need to do is fill out this form. This is the registration form. You're going to get access to all our resources, off-market leads, cash buyers, everyone that we currently use, preferred partners, you're going to have access to that. So all you need to do is fill this out, select special Chicago DealVault for the package, okay? And then for the promo code, it's going to be GC, okay? You're going to get it free for 30 days. After that, it's going to be $140 per month, okay? You can cancel anytime. You have unlimited one-on-one training, okay? We have 2 full-time trainers, one-on-one trainings, okay? As soon as you sign up, you can schedule your training. We will also assign a dedicated virtual assistant to help you find off-market deals. So even if you don't have time to access the system, we will find great deals on your behalf and send them to you in your inbox. So make sure that you check out the system. You have nothing to lose but the stress and headaches of trying to find deals, analyze them. We're going to do all that legwork for you. I want to make sure that you focus on what's going to make you money. Making offers, talking to sellers, talking to listing agents. That's where you're going to be making money. Okay, so please, if you don't have access to DealVault, get it now. Another question is GC on the preferred partners, just the trades. Yeah, Mark, send us an email. We're going to send you a name for a GC that you can use, okay? Okay, so if you want to send us an email to support@chicagodealvault.com, okay? And then just to quickly summarize, understand the area that supports your exit strategy, location, and then look at the numbers in DealVault, ARV, and then the most you should pay for the property. And after that, then you start diving into the property, see the property from the inside. But in this case, there was no need to look at the property. It just didn't make sense because the wholesaler was asking for $200,000 when indeed we should not pay more than $125,000. So it was a no deal today. Make sure that you have access to DealVault, have access to all our preferred partners, get off-market deal alerts in your inbox, and get unlimited one-on-one training. Okay, so to sign up, fill this form out, select for the package special Chicago DealVault, and the promo code is GC. I'm going to stay on the line for the next 3 minutes to answer any questions or help you get signed up. Another question, is there a replay coming from this past Sunday's webinar? Yeah, it's already there. Valerie, if you go to the training tab in Chicago DealVault, it's already there. Click on the training tab and then go to the bottom, and then you're gonna find out, you're gonna see the face-off between the flipper and the wholesaler. It's right here, unique face-off on pandemic, wholesaling, cash flow, and flip. It's right here. It's already under the training tab, okay? Valerie, it's right there. Another question, when you said you were doing the tour of your upgraded property, oh, it's going to be not this Sunday, but the following Sunday, okay? So in a week and a half, we're gonna do the live event. We can gather up to 50 people, keep it in the distance, so it's gonna be a really cool event, but I wanna make sure that you see the property live. We're gonna schedule that on a Sunday, so most people can make it. Okay, so it's gonna be not this Sunday, but the following Sunday. So again, if you don't have access to DealVault, I'm gonna stay on the line for the next few minutes to make sure that I answer any questions. Yeah, absolutely, on the 19th, so please mark your calendar. So this is the form that you need to fill out to get it for free for the next 30 days, get unlimited training, select special Chicago deal vote for the package, promo code GC. So thank you everyone for joining. You're gonna get the replay tomorrow, first thing in the morning. I look forward to seeing you on Sunday.